25 ಜನ ಏನಿದ್ದೀರಾ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? Shall we discuss something? 25 members ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
Yes, sir, you can continue this session.
Okay, sir. I'll start then. Okay. Good morning, guys. Myself Nitin. With the same topic we have been here today. That is sexual reproduction in organisms, right? So where we have been discussing regarding the sexual reproduction in the human beings, how the changes are going to be occurs in the body of an organism. We have been discussed in the last class, right? So I think up to how the fusion of gamete takes place, these things we have been discussed in the previous class. Even the placental connection that is between the mother as well as the baby, right, for the transformation of the food that takes place. Regarding this much, we have been discussed in the last class, right? And now advantages as well as disadvantages we have been discussed about the sexual reproduction. Even we have been also started about the reproductive health in the human beings, right? So how we have to maintain our reproductive health, where we have been discussed that regarding the different kind of sexual diseases or sexually transmitted diseases, when the HIV, hepatitis, gonorrhea, syphilis, genital birds, like that, different kind of diseases we have been discussed, right? And now today we need to discuss about how we can prevent the transmission of. So as he says that various contraceptive methods we are going to be used for to avoid the pregnancy, right, or to avoid the transmission of diseases from one person to another person. For that, we have been using here a covering of coverings, commonly that is called as a condom. These condoms are been made for the even male also, even the female also, right? They have been commonly going to cover the genital organs, right? And that may, at some extent, it may stop the transmission of the disease. We can say here, right? See it. The sexual act always has a potential to lead the pregnancy, and pregnancy will make a major demand on the body and the mind of the woman. If she is not ready for it, her health will be adversely affected. Therefore, the many ways have been devised to avoid the pregnancy. So, ನೋಡಿ ಈ ಮದುವೆ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ the parents ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗಂಡ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೋ, they want a baby, right? So that time we have to think about the women also, right? Whether they have been ready for the pregnancy or not, right? If they have been not ready, if their body is not ready, if there is a pregnancy has been happened, then there have been various kind of we can say the effects on their body that is going to take place, right? So we have to avoid these all the things. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೋಡಿ ಮದುವೆ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನೋ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗಂಡ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಿರ್ಲಿ, So they avoid the baby for the 1 or 2 years, right? That is commonly we call it as a family planning ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದೇನೋ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು 2, 3, 4 ವರ್ಷ ನಂತರ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಪಡಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ they will always think, right? So like that here, so how we can avoid the pregnancies, right? Of those methods we call it as a contraceptive methods. So anta methods ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ contraceptive methods ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. See, what is contraception ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, right? So commonly we say that it is the method or it is the aim to control the birth by using some instrument or some medicines, right? That is we call it as a contraceptives. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ contraceptives ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಪ್ರೆಗ್ನೆನ್ಸಿನ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಬರ್ತ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಬರ್ತ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸಿ, ದ ಪ್ರಿವೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಆರ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಓವಮ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಇಂಟರ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಷನ್. ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಇಂಟರ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಏನು ದ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ as ಎಗ್ ಏನ್ ಮೀಟ್ ಆಗಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಂತದ್ದು, ಅದು ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋ ತರ ತಡೆಯೋದಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ನೋಡಿ, ಒಂದು ಐಡಿಯಲ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಇಟ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ಅ ಯೂಸರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಲಿ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಈಸಿ ಆಗಿ ಬರಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಯೂಸರ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್. ನಾವ್ ಏನೇ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಟಿವ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್, ವೈ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಬಿನ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಟು ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಗ್ನೆನ್ಸಿ. ಸೊ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ನೆಸ್ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಇದು ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ದೀಸ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಎನಿ ಸೈಡ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಸೈಡ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಲಾರ್ದೆ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೈಡ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, that we discuss how different kind of contraception methods or contraceptives they are going to be work. ಯಾವ ತರ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ತರ ಇದನ್ನ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರೋಣ. See, the first one that is we call it as a natural method or we can say it as a traditional method. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಳೆ ಕಾಲದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಪದ್ಧತಿ, right? The second one is about barrier methods. Third one is about intrauterine devices, that is commonly called as IUDs. One more is about oral contraceptives. One more is about injection and the implants, and one more is the surgical methods. So all these contraceptive methods you can observe here. Tablets is there. These are the IUDs, intrauterine devices, right? Here is a condom. You can observe the tablets, right? Even the cesarean, that is the cutting methods, the chemical spray. These are the various kind of we can say the contraceptive methods are there. Let me come towards the one method, that is the first one, that is a natural method, or we can say it as a traditional method, right? So here the parents, or we can say the husband and wife, they just avoid the meeting of a ovum as well as a sperm by their own. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ತರ ಅಂತ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಯೂಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವ್ದಾರ ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಯೂಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ದೇ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ the meeting of the sperm as well as the ovum. That is the main principle here. That is to avoid the pregnancy, right? So the first one, the first method, that is called as periodic absentia. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ periods absent ಇರುತ್ತೆ, right? So during that time, if there is a we can say the coitus or the intercourse that takes place at that time, there is no baby or there is no pregnancy is going to be happen. So the periodic absentia is one such method in which the couples avoid or absence from coitus from the day 10 to 17 of the menstruation cycle, when ovulation could be accepted. See, what is ovulation? Now nodi, commonly in the menstrual cycle kade bandaga there is a time, right, from 14 to commonly ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 10 to 17 ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, or else ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ 15ನೇ ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ 16ನೇ ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ in this period ovules are going to be released from the ovarian. ovary ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ovule release ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, that is called as ovulation ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. The releasing of ovule, that is called as ovulation. ಒಂದ್ ವೇಳೆ ovule release ಆಯ್ತು, if the sperm at a time it is been released, right, in the uterus, then it is going to transfer to the fallopian tube. ನೋಡಿ, ಏನು ಓವುಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಓವಲ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ if there is a intercourse or a sexual act that takes place between the a male and a female, at that time there is no fusion because ovary slit is not released. Only sperm is there, and the sperm will die, right? So adu kuda satthogbidute. That is what here we says that the periodic absence during that time, if there is an intercourse is been there, then there is no chance for the fertilization or chance for the pregnancy and the health. The second method is about a withdrawal or a coitus interruptus. Withdrawal. See here, as we says that the sexual act is a pleasurable kind of a process. On the sukha sigutte anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. See here, in these methods, what the parent do, especially the male parent or you can say the female parent, he will remove his penis before there is an ejaculation process. Just he remove the penis from the female body so that the sperm will going to release outside the body of the female, and that time there is no chance for the fusion of male as well as the female gametes in the nulli helbodu. One more is about the lactational amniorrhea. What is lactational amniorrhea? See here, commonly in the mother, right, after having a baby, ಯಾವ್ದೊಂದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ತಾಯಿ ಬೇಬಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಆ ಬೇಬಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಿಡಿ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಪ್ರೆಗ್ನೆನ್ಸಿ ನಿಲ್ಲುತ್ತೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿನಿಂದ ಅಪ್ ಟು ಬೇಬಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಒಂದು 3-4 ತಿಂಗಳವರೆಗೂ, ರೈಟ್, you can see there is what happens after the birth of the child. There is a starting of the milk from the mother breast. Allinda milk barak start agutte. So during that time, if there is intercourse is going to be happens at that time, there is no chances for the fusion of the male as well as the female gametes. Alli yavada chance andre fusion adru kuda there is no we can say pregnancy agala, implantation agala antanalli helbodu. Adakke ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ, the method is based on the fact that the ovulation, therefore the cycle do not occur during the period of intense lactational. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂದ ಮಿಲ್ಕ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೋ, ಸೊ ಅಂತ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ, ರೈಟ್, the therefore as long as the mother, the breast feeds the child fully, chances of contraceptions. See, these methods sometimes they may be a failure. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ we have to take a chance. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫೇಲ್ಯೂರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, ರೈಟ್. The second method is about the barrier methods. ಎರಡನೇ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಬಂದಾಗ barrier methods ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. See, in these barrier methods we are going to be prevent the fusion of the ovum as well as the sperm through some kind of instrument. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂಥರ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೂಮೆಂಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ, ಪ್ರಿವೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. That is called as a barriers ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. And those barriers are here commonly we call it as a condoms, or we call that as a diaphragm, cervical caps, even the volutes. And lastly, one more is about spermicidal fields, right? So they have been commonly acting as a barriers between the fusion of male as well as the female gametes in the nulli helbodu. The number one is about a condom. So as we know that they have been commonly used to cover the penis in case of the male. Even in case of the female, the vagina as well as cervix in a female, that is going to be covered just before the coitus, or we can say just before there is a sexual act, so that the ejaculated shaman would not enter into the female reproductive tract, right? So this can be prevent the conception of the pregnancy and avoid ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, because it is a barrier, or we can say some kind of a rubber kind of an instrument. So where the sperm is going to collect it inside this rubber, and that will not passes to the female reproductive tract. So that automatically we can say that is there is a void between the fusion of male as well as the female gamete. There is a one popular brand for the condom that is called as a Nero, and nowadays there have been various brands have been available in the market, right? But commonly the Nero, it was provided with the government still also, right? You can visit any kind of hospitals. The outside there is a box will be there, right? See, the next one is about the diaphragm, cervical caps, or the ollets. You can observe here the different kind of cervical caps, even the sponges. So what they have been doing? See here, These are the barriers, even they have been made by the rubbers that are inserted into the female reproductive tract to cover the cervix during the coitus. They prevent the contraception by blocking the entry of the sperm through the cervix. They have been again reusable. You can observe here. So you can observe that how they have been inserting. The uterus is there, cervix is there, even the rectum is there. So there you can observe here the hand is been there, and they have been inserting these rubbers, or we can say the cervical caps wallets they are going to be inserted inside the female reproductive tract just to avoid the fusion of male as well as the female gametes. Normally, it says that these barrier methods they have been blocking the entry of sperm antanagli ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು. See, one more is about the spermicidals or creams, or we can say sometimes there have been jellies or foams, right? They are commonly used as barriers to increase their contraceptive efficiency. Here, these are the creams that is going to be used, right? And these are been called as spermicide. Sperm, they are going to kill these sperms as barrier methods. One more is about intrauterine devices that is commonly called as IUDs. The one common example is about copper IUD, that is commonly we call it as a copper T, CUT, CU7, LNG20. Like that, there have been different kind of devices are been made, and commonly these devices are been inserted by the doctors or expert nurses in the hospitals. Where they are going to be inserted, commonly we say that inside the uterus through the vaginal openings, right? So you can observe here, there have been different kind of again IUDs are been made. See, this is a copper IUD. It is just like a T shape, right? So it is going to be inserted inside the female reproductive tract, that is a uterus. So when it has been entered into the uterus, the sperm is also going to be released. That will not the fuses with the ovary or an egg. And in ovary release in the egg and egg fallopian tube, the sperm will not reach up to the fallopian tube because there is a barrier. There is a one T-shaped structure is been present, right? So that is commonly called as intrauterine devices. So as it says that there have been mainly of two different types have been there. They have been available. The one is about non-mediated IUDs. Example is lipase loop. And one more is about copper releasing IUDs. That is a copper T, CUT, CU7, right? Even the multi-load 375. And the hormone releasing, and in sense the chemical releasing, the IUDs are in there. That is called as a progesterone, even the LNG20. So commonly, these IUDs, what is their main function here? The IUDs increases the phagocytosis of a sperm within the uterus. See, phagocytosis means the killing or eating of the sperms, right? So who is going to eat here? What are these copper T's are in there? They are going to be releases the Cu ions, that is the copper ions. And these copper ions, they suppress the mortality in movement of the sperm because the tail is present, right? That is going to be suppressed. The movement and suppress agbitu sperm alle udiyadu, right? And the fertility capacity of the sperm is also going to be decreases or going to be suppresses. That is what these intrauterine devices are going to be very important, right? Especially to avoid the pregnancy and see, the hormone releasing IUDs in addition makes the uterus unsuitable implantation and the cervix hostile to the sperm. The IUDs ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ sperm ಮತ್ತೆ ovary ಅಂತ ಮೀಟ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅಂತ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಪ್ಲಾಂಟೇಶನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಸ ಬೇಬಿ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಕೂಡ ಆಗೋದನ್ನ ತಡೆಗಟ್ಟುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. And that will avoid the pregnancies for how much time you want to avoid, right? The one more is about injections or implants. You can observe the implants with. So ಅದನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಂಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. See, the progestogens alone or a combination with the estrogen can also be used by the females as injections or implants under the skin. Their mode of action is similar that of the pills, and their effective periods are much longer. ನೋಡಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಪಿಲ್ಸ್ ತಗೋತೀವಿ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ if there is a intercourse is going to be happens to avoid the pregnancy they are going to take some pills tablets ಅನ್ನು ತಗೋತಾರೆ ಯಾವ ತರ ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅದೇ ತರ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ these injections or implants are going to be a work that is going to be they say see administration of a progesterone or a progesterone estrogen combinations or IUDs within a 72 hours of coitus have been found to be very effective as emergency contraceptives, as they could be used to avoid the possible the pregnancy due to rape or a casual unprotected intercourse. So they have to remember here. So what are these injections or implants or tablets or pills I am saying? They must be used before the 72 hours of the intercourse or a sexual act, because to avoid the pregnancies. And commonly we have been seeing that some cases that is commonly called as a rapes, right? So during that time, they are going to be used these kind of methods to avoid the pregnancy, especially in the abused women antanali helbohudu. See, and there is one more method to avoid the pregnancy that is called as surgical methods. And these methods are very important for your examination. They are going to be asked. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು. Okay, there have been two methods have been there in the surgical methods. One is called as a vasectomy, other one is called as a tubectomy. Vasectomy commonly in the males, tubectomy in the females. That we have to remember. Why? Because fallopian tube it is present in the female and vasa differenza that is present in case of males. Clear? What they are going to do, right? Commonly we says these methods as sterilization methods, especially to prevent the future pregnancy. We can observe here in the vasectomy, the vasa differenza that is going to be cut down in pipe irutte allinda ee testis inda vasa differenza ideyalla that is going to connect to the urethra. So alli en ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಪೈಪ್ ಅನ್ನ vasa difference ಅನ್ನ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಟೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Why? In sperm release ಆಗುತ್ತೆ testis ಇಂದ, that sperm will not be reached to the ureter, ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಅಂತ ಪೈಪ್ ಲೈನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, right? So this kind of a method we call it as a vasectomy ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, right? So here commonly we says that is going to block the gamete transfer and that prevent the conceptions ಅಂತನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು. See in the female, right, what are the fallopian tubes are in there? ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ovaries are going to release through ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ from the ovaries the ovum egg is going to release and that egg is going to be transported to the fallopian tube to the uterus. ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಯೂಟರಸ್ ವರೆಗೂ, ಯೂಟರಸ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಪ್ಲಾಂಟೇಶನ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ there is no pregnancy, and that is what they are going to be cut these fallopian tubes. ನೋಡಬಹುದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ fallopian tubes ಅನ್ನು ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಟೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, right? So here also ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, the gamete transfer can be avoided, right? 1 minute. Okay, see here, that is commonly called as a vasectomy we says, right? So that is vasectomy, a small part of the vasa differenza is been removed and tied up to the incisions made on the scrotum. Even the same we can say it in case of the female also, over the fallopian tubes the small incisions made and they are going to be tied up, right? So whenever the parents, you ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ ಮದುವೆ ಎರಡು ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ the parents undergoes these kind of surgical methods. Why? Because they want to avoid the future pregnancies, right? So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ surgical methods ಕಡೆಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ parents ಒಲವು ತೋರಿಸೋದು, and these methods have been very effective as compared to the other methods. The other methods only there may be a chances for the pregnancy, but in these methods there is no chances for the pregnancy, and here the failure chances is about 99%, that is not there. But in the other methods the failures may be there. ಇಲ್ಲಿ failures ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ failure ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. See the what we have been discussed up to now, the birth control methods, the natural methods, barrier methods, chemical methods, and even the implantable methods and the surgical methods. Okay, these methods are been very important to avoid the pregnancy, right, during the sexual act. Here, while surgical methods are safe in a long run, surgery itself can cause an infection and other problem if not performed properly, right? So surgery can also be used for a removal of unwanted pregnancies. This is very important. ನೋಡಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ ಸತಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ the parents ಅಂದ್ರೆ husband and wife ಇರ್ಬೋದು after marriage there is a pregnancy ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ sometimes before marriage ಅಂದ್ರೆ after marriage ಆದ್ರೆ they are okay with they want to keep the baby but before marriage ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದಾಗ because we know nowadays there is a commonly there is a love that is this period that the teenage period that is infectious ಒಂಥರ harmful ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು because that is been attraction ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ teenage ಅಲ್ಲಿ attraction ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಗಂಡು ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೆಣ್ಣಿನ ನಡುವೆ there is attraction will be there and that may lead to the love and love lead to the other we can say the things anta helbodu. So during that time what happens if there is a unprotected sex, we can say during that time there is no barriers are used and that lead to the pregnancy. See, so during that time we can say that ಅಂದ್ರೆ unprotected sex ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು or else intercourse before the marriage that if it lead to the pregnancy sudden ಆಗಿ ಒಂದು pregnancy ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ the both the partners are in a dilemma ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು or in a shock ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. So during that time there is a chance to remove the baby, right? That is how we call it as abortions ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, right? ಈ abortions sometimes that has been very harmful especially for the woman, right? Because it is going to cause a lot of pain in the woman body anta helbodu. And commonly these surgical methods are being used for the removal of unwanted pregnancies, right? So idanna bahalastu jana misuse ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು, right? These may be misused by the people who do not want a particular child, as happens in a illegal sex selective abortions of a female fetus. See, ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಇದು ಮದ್ಯಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಆಯ್ತು, ಮದುವೆ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಬೇಬಿ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಯಾವ್ದಿದೆ, ಹೆಣ್ಣಿದೆಯೋ ಗಂಡಿದೆಯೋ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ರೈಟ್, ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಸ್ಕ್ಯಾನಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ. And that afterwards if they got to know the baby is female ಅದನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು they are going to remove through the surgical methods, right? ಅದರಿಂದ ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. That is ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ in the society the female numbers have been reduced, the female sex ratio has been reduced because the lot of parents they don't wanted to be don't wanted a female child. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ the sex ratio decrease ಆಯ್ತಾ ಬಂತು, ರೈಟ್? ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಲಿ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಸಿಗ್ಲಾರ್ದಾಗ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು. And that is what there is a law has been changed to avoid to know or to detect the sex of the baby. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಬೇಬಿ ಇದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ತಾಯಿ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಸೊ ಆ ಬೇಬಿದು ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಅದನ್ನ ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಕೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಕೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಜೈಲಿಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ದಂಡ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗಲ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಲೈಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ರೈಟ್? So that is been prohibited by the laws ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, right? So that we have to remember here. We have noted earlier that the reduction in the process by which organism increases their population. The rate of birth and a death in a given population will determine its size. The size of the human population is a cause for concern for many peoples, right? This is because as an expanding population makes it too harder to improve everybody's standard of living. However, inequality in a society is a main reason for poor standard of living for many peoples. The size of the population is relatively unimportant. What is the meaning of these sentences? See, ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ರೀಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, there is a population size automatically going to be decreases ಅಲ್ವಾ, population size automatic decrease ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ the reproduction process is been very important, so that the organisms are going to be increase their population or populations ಅನ್ನ increase ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. See, ಎಷ್ಟು rate of birth ಆಗುತ್ತೋ in a given population or a rate of that is going to take place in the population, that determines the size. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು size ಅನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. See, the size of the human population is a concern for many peoples, because we know that in the human population the rate of birth is very high, but as compared to rate of birth, the rate of death, it is been decreased. ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ, the mortality rate ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಸಾಯುವಂತ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಾಲಿಟಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ದ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ತರ ಕಾಯಿಲೆಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದರ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಯೋರ್ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹುಟ್ಟೋರ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಸೆಕೆಂಡಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಹುಡ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಸೆಕೆಂಡಿಗೆ ಒಬ್ರು ಹುಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ that much of high population we have been having, if this has been continued, as we says that there is a population explosion can be happened, but this has been already happened in the India as well as the China, because there is a lot of number of the human beings are going to be birth takes place every second ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, right? So that is what this is, because of an expanding population make it harder to improves everybody's standard of living. ನೋಡಿ, ಹೆಂಗ್ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗಾಗಿತ್ತು ಹಂಗ ಇರೋದಕ್ಕೂ ಜಾಗ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ರೈಟ್? ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಏನ್ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಸೌಕರ್ಯಗಳು ಬೇಕು, what are the common things that is been required, that will not be available easy. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಿಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ರು ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ರು ಸಿಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಏನ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ತರ ಇರೋದನ್ನ ಬದುಕೋದನ್ನ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ರೈಟ್? ಅದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಲಿ ಒಬ್ರು ಪೂವರ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಶ್ರೀಮಂತ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಡಿಫರ್, ರೈಟ್? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ however the if inequality in a society is the main reason for the poor standard of living for many people. ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಯಾರು ಬಡವರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, who are been poor, they are not having that much of an ability to be live happy. ನೋಡಿ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅದು ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ ಇರೋ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ. ಅಂತ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಲಿ ಒಬ್ರು ಪೂವರ್ ಒಬ್ರು ಶ್ರೀಮಂತರು ಅಂತ ಬಿ ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ನಾವು ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ there is a population explosion, right? The size of the population is relatively we can say one cause for the poor standard of living ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು. Okay, see, as we have been discussed up to now, the reproductive health system na kalkom bandri, the humans beings are different than the other animals because they have a power of thinking, they have to obey the certain moral values and need to behave sensible in most of the aspects of the life, right? From the beginning of puberty, it does not mean that the person is psychologically ready for the process of reproduction. For human beings, reproduction involves more than just producing an offspring, because we call this reproduction as in the other term we call it as a love ಅಂತ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, right? So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ಸ್ reproduction ಕೇವಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಪಡೆಯೋದಲ್ಲ, right? It is some kind of other the emotions are ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಹುಡುಗ ದೊಡ್ಡವನಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಹುಡುಗಿ ದೊಡ್ಡವಳಾಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ, puberty ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ they are been not ready for the production of the babies or for a reproduction. There is a certain age or a certain time to become, then they get ready automatically for this reproduction process ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, right? Here, as any act of sex has the potential fertilization, so taking care of contraceptions become very important. ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದರ್ ಇಸ್ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಗುವಂತ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಸುಮಾರು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಕಾಂಟ್ರಾಸೆಪ್ಟಿವ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ತಡೆಗಟ್ಟಬಹುದು, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಾವು ಕೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸಿ ಮೋರೆವರ್ the act of sex also has the potential of creating a many sexually transmitted diseases. So a sexual act in the many we can say the harmful diseases are going to be transported from one person to another person. So few examples here again: gonorrhea, herpes, syphilis, AIDS, hepatitis B, AIDS, even the hepatitis, sorry, they are been repeated here, are incurable. The AIDS and hepatitis B are incurable diseases still today. But hepatitis B kade bandaga there is a chances to be cured. But AIDS, there is no chances for the cure anta helbodu. ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಬಂತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಯೋವರೆಗೂ ಈ ರೋಗ ಬಿಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ regarding the AIDS, right? Hepatitis B, nowadays there is a medicines are there and that can be cured, but AIDS, that is not possible to cure, right? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, even the curable sexual diseases are potentially dangerous, not only physical but also psychologically. They are going to be affect on the mind of a person who are been having these kind of diseases. Nodi, ಒಂದು ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಕಡೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾವು ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಏಡ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ how we treat them, right? Totally we avoid those people. ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Then how their mind should be act ಅಂತ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೀವು ತಿಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಇದು ಕೇವಲ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಈವನ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಆರ್ ಸೈಕಾಲಜಿ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಕೂಡ ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಸಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ದ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಮೇನ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಪ್ರಿವೆಂಟಿಂಗ್ these sexually transmitted diseases, right? And even the preventing the unwanted pregnancy, right? Unwanted child anta navu helbodu. Reproductive health means the couple should be able to enjoy the reproductive phase of its life, right? Without taking the burden of a gigantic family. Andre in reproductive act ideo, that is a very heather, that is that need to be enjoyed, right? This phase is very important for each and every person. So after, because ಈ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಅ ಹೈ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗಿದೆ, ದೇ ಆರ್ ಬಿನ್ ಎಂಜಾಯಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಧ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಅರ್ಧ ಡಜನ್ 1 ಡಜನ್ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಹಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲ, ರೈಟ್? ಅದನ್ನ ಬರ್ತ್ ಕೊಡೋದಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿಯೋ ಅದನ್ನ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹಮ್ದೋ ಹಮಾರೇದು ಹಮ್ದೋ ಹಮಾರಾ ಏಕ್ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಗುಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ us only, because the living standard that goes high ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಕ್ಳು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೋ ಅಷ್ಟೇನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿದ್ದಾಗ ದಟ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಬಂದು ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ದ ಪೂವರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ನಾವಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಹುದು, ರೈಟ್? So this is about the reproductive health, and this topics ends here. ಈ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಮುಗಿಯುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ the reproduction in human beings. If you peoples have been having any kind of doubt, you can ask now. ಇವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕೇಳಬಹುದು. ಯಾರಿಗಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿ. ರಮ್ಯಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ? ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡು, ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ.
ಯಾರಿಗಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿ. ಹೌ ಡು ಆರ್ಗನಿಸಮ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರೋಂತ ಒಂದು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಲ್ ನಾನ್ ಕೇಳಿರೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ನ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜನ ಸ್ಕಿಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ದಾರ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದೆ. ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ ಜನ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ ಜನ ಹೇಳೋದ್ ಮುಜುಗರ ಪಟ್ಕೋತಾರೆ. ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಗರ್ಲ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಜುಗರ ಪಟ್ಕೋತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಪಟ್ಟೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಸತ್ಯನ ಸುಳ್ಳು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಟೀಚರ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಟೀಚ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಓಕೆ, ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು.
ಸರ್ LG ಫುಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಏನ್ರಿ?
LNG ನಿಮಗೆ PUC ಓದೋದ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಫುಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ನನ್ಗೂ ನೆನಪಿಲ್ಲ, ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು. ಓಕೆ,
Okay, sir. Thanks.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರು ಕೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? Any doubts? Here, LNG full form ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, Lenovo gastril device ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. LNG in the sense, Lenovo gastril devices. That is commonly used methods. Same ಹೇಗೆ property ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅದೇ ತರ ಇದು ಕೂಡ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. Okay. Then other people ಯಾರಿಗ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? Or else you raise your hands, ನಿಮ್ಮ hands ಅನ್ನ raise ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಯಾವ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್? The light topic. Next topic light ಅನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. See before going to start the light topic, ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ 7th ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ 8th ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಇದೆ, ಸೇಮ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಇದೆ 7th and 8th ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ರೈಟ್? ಅದರ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ this 10th class is been related. So what you have been learned in the 8th as well as in the 7th, so based on that the 10th class will be there. So other basis ಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಇದೆ. So adana, if you have been having a textbook, please revise those topics. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ I am going to be off the video. ನನ್ನ ವಿಡಿಯೋನ ನಾನು ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀನಿ. Only PPT will be available for you, and I am going to be using here the pens. Pens ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, and I will write over the same PPT ಮೇಲೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. PDF ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ರೀ, ಮೊದಲಿಂದೆಲ್ಲ PDF ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ. I will send the PDF. You can use the PDFs also. Okay. The same topic PDF ಅನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಇನ್ನ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಬಹುದು, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸರಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೆಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? If you are having doubts, you can ask. ಮತ್ತೆ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Okay, if there is no doubt, then very good. ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೆದಾಯ್ತು. Okay, then we'll end the session here. Sessions ಅನ್ನ end ಮಾಡೋದಾ? ಸರಿ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
ಅವ್ರು ಇಲ್ಲ ರೀ, ಎಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಿ.
Okay.
ಎಸ್.